There is a silent force that draws, enchants, and hypnotizes, far beyond mere physical appearance. It cannot be seen in a mirror or captured by filters. It's your energy. In a world obsessed with beauty standards, many still wonder why some men feel magnetically attracted to women who don't conform to them. The answer lies in presence, inner vibration, the living soul that pulses behind the eyes. Carl Jung, through his profound exploration of the human psyche, taught us that true connection doesn't arise from the surface, but from the unconscious, where energies recognize, mirror, and complete one another. This video reveals why, ultimately, men fall in love with your energy, not your beauty, and how you can consciously awaken that magnetism. Leave a comment. My energy is my greatest power. To understand why energy attracts more than beauty, we must dive into the foundations of Carl Jung's analytical psychology. According to Jung, every human carries within unconscious forces that shape perceptions and behaviors. The energy we speak of is not a mystical or abstract concept, but a living manifestation of what Jung called the self, the totality of being, comprised of both conscious and unconscious aspects. When a man feels drawn to a woman beyond her appearance, he's being moved by something that resonates in his unconscious. This is directly related to the archetype of the anima, which represents the inner feminine in a man. When a woman's energy embodies qualities that speak directly to a man's anima, authenticity, emotional integrity, sensitivity, and strength, a profound archetypal connection forms that transcends the physical. Jung also taught us about the shadow, the sum of what has been repressed or denied. Women who integrate their shadow, who acknowledge and embrace their hidden aspects, exude a magnetic energy because they don't live solely in the persona, the social mask, but reveal truth and complexity. This in turn awakens in others an unconscious call to integrate their own shadows and pursue wholeness. Thus, the energy that attracts is the fruit of the individuation journey, the process of becoming who you truly are by unifying internal opposites, masculine and feminine, light and dark. This psychic integrity radiates a vibration that touches others invisibly but deeply. Presence isn't something you learn or imitate. It's the direct expression of your inner state and the connection you have with yourself. For Carl Jung, the deepest point of the human psyche is the self, the regulating, integrating center of personality that guides one toward wholeness. When a woman walks toward herself, her energy shifts. She begins to radiate confidence without arrogance, firmness without rigidity, sensitivity without fragility. Others sense this quality, even unconsciously. It's a living, silent presence that speaks louder than any aesthetic feature. Physical beauty, while attractive, operates on the level of the persona, the social mask we all wear. The persona is important, but limited. When a woman is disconnected from her essence and tries to compensate with a constructed image, the energy that emerges is artificial. It may impress briefly but cannot sustain deep bonds. By contrast, presence born of the self communicates authenticity. It's the result of internal work, self-knowledge, confronting one's shadows and aligning feelings, thoughts, and expression. This energy is perceived as security, and emotional security is a powerful attractor for the male unconscious. When a man approaches such a woman, he unconsciously recognizes in her a reference point, a psychic stability. He feels he can rest, not because she soothes him with words, but because her presence transmits inner harmony. This is deeply erotic to the unconscious, responding to a longing for completeness that goes far beyond superficial desire. Another key aspect of this presence is the absence of need for approval. A woman in touch with herself doesn't rely on external validation to feel whole. That creates a magnetic field where there is emotional independence, there is freedom, and freedom, paradoxically, is one of the greatest forms of attraction. We often see women who aren't conventionally beautiful exert an inexplicable fascination. That's because they are truly present, whole in the now, not trying to manipulate the other's perception, but simply being themselves. Jung emphasized the importance of the individuation process, becoming who you are in essence, not who the world expects. When a woman follows that path, her energy changes frequency. She doesn't project her lack onto others, doesn't transfer her pain, nor expects anyone to save her. That psychic maturity generates an energetic field that invites others to become more whole, and that's what attracts, not the promise of momentary pleasure, but the possibility of transformation and depth. Therefore, presence born of the self is silently irresistible. It doesn't need to announce itself or seek attention. It simply is, and truth always finds resonance. When a man senses it, even without rational understanding, he feels called, not by something he saw, but by something he felt, a brief reminder of who he is in essence. That is the foundation of lasting magnetism, a presence anchored in oneself, a woman who has become a temple, not a display window. The self does not seduce, it emanates, and those touched by that emanation rarely forget. According to Jung, every man carries within him an archetype of the feminine he must integrate throughout life, the anima. It represents not only his internal image of womanhood, but all feminine aspects of the psyche: emotion, intuition, sensitivity, capacity to give and nurture. When a man encounters a woman whose energy awakens these qualities, a powerful unconscious phenomenon occurs. He projects his anima onto her. That's why feminine energy, not external beauty, can touch a man so deeply. This attraction is not rational. It arises at an archetypal level, where a man recognizes in that woman something that completes him. His soul feels called, but not every woman is perceived as an anima bearer with equal intensity. What defines this impact is the quality of her energy. When a woman is connected to her essence, not performing femininity, but simply being fluid, intuitive, receptive, and present, she embodies the anima archetype vividly, and this creates immediate resonance. On the other hand, a woman who tries to represent femininity through idealization or remains disconnected from herself emits a confusing energy. A man may feel a physical attraction, but won't experience that inner impulse toward emotional surrender. The anima awakens only when there is truth, not perfection. Spontaneity, vitality, and the ability to be present with oneself generate that internal call. At the same time, a woman who knows and consciously integrates her feminine energy is not at the mercy of projection. She doesn't depend on male admiration to feel alive, making her even more magnetic, because her field is one of abundance, not need. And here the relationship transforms. The man not only desires her, but feels compelled to evolve through his bond with her. The anima is not only an ideal of femininity, it is also an internal guide for a man's emotional and spiritual growth. When he connects with a woman who consciously activates this archetype, she becomes a kind of mirror, revealing his own forgotten possibilities, not through advice or demands, but by existing with presence, sensitivity, and inner strength. What attracts here is not appearance but vibration. The woman becomes a living channel of the energy the male unconscious longs to integrate. This can provoke fascination, enchantment, even confusion, because a man may not understand why he feels so deeply connected to someone who may not match his external ideal. Yet the unconscious is wise. It doesn't seek what pleases the eyes, but what nourishes the soul. Hence, the woman who lives her energy authentically need not worry about pleasing. She grasps that her role is not to fill voids, but to be whole. That wholeness powerfully activates the anima in another, potentially transformative or frightening. Many men flee from such a woman because she represents not just pleasure, but real transformation. Thus, the magnetism of feminine energy is directly tied to its ability to evoke in the male unconscious a need for integration. It touches a place where a man is not merely a lover, but a seeker, and the woman, in this context, is not an object of desire, but a portal to reunion with his own being. For Jung, the shadow is everything the ego rejects, represses, or denies within itself. Those impulses deemed unacceptable, shameful, or contrary to our ideal self-image. Paradoxically, when a woman begins integrating her shadow, her energy transforms most deeply and magnetically. The attraction generated by someone who lives in contact with her own shadow is silent, intense, and almost hypnotic, because it radiates truth. A woman who owns her anger, envy, desire, fear, sadness, and light with equal dignity becomes whole. She's no longer trying to be perfect, and that very imperfection attracts. She awakens in a man an unconscious memory of wholeness, the freedom to be oneself without masks. That's why such a woman wields a fascination beyond any aesthetic standard. Her energy carries raw life, complexity, and depth. By integrating her shadow, she stops projecting her lacks onto others. She neither demands validation nor blames a man for her insecurities. Instead, she shows vulnerability and power, courage to exist outside predefined molds. And that courage is rare and precious. The male unconscious recognizes it as psychic truth. even if the rational mind resists. A woman who embraces her shadow communicates wordlessly that she can endure life's intensity, making her not only desirable, but unforgettable. This woman lives not to please. She knows both light and darkness dwell within her, and both are part of the human experience. She doesn't hide her conflicts or strive to look serene. Instead, she moves internally, pulsating life and activating emotions in others. This is living energy, and it is precisely the kind of energy that touches a man's soul, not just his senses. An integrated shadow also reveals the capacity to support another in their darkness. A woman familiar with her own shadow isn't afraid of a man's doubts, fragilities, or anger. That creates a safe relational space where he needn't perform strength constantly. He can lower his guard and be authentic without judgment, and to the male unconscious, that is liberating. Conversely, a woman who refuses to face her shadow becomes imprisoned by her persona, a rigid, controlling, idealized image. Her energy, though it strives to seem radiant, carries tension. She demands recognition, craves desire, and begs for confirmation. That constant need feels like a burden to others. What should be attraction becomes obligation, and the enchantment fades because the vibration rests on fear, not truth. A woman who integrates her shadow need not speak of it. Her energy speaks for itself. She can be sweet and wild, calm and intense, maternal and seductive, spiritual and carnal. She transcends categories because she understands wholeness is made of opposites. And those free to live their opposites attract those who also crave that freedom. Emotionally mature men feel deeply drawn to women who have embraced their shadows, because they instinctively know there lies space to grow, fail, rebuild, and exist without pretense. Shadow integration marks a turning point. Once a woman embraces it, her energy becomes visceral, profound, magnetic. She no longer seeks to attract, she simply is. And those who are genuine inevitably become attractive to those seeking themselves. We live in an image-dominated culture where the persona, the social role we play, is often mistaken for who we truly are. For Jung, the persona is necessary. It allows us to interact, form bonds, and maintain social order. Yet when we identify exclusively with it, we lose touch with our soul, our self, the living truth behind our masks. It is precisely when someone breaks that identification and reveals herself beyond the persona that the most authentic, transformative encounters occur. A woman living beyond her persona need not prove her worth. She isn't worried about appearing perfect, controlled, or desirable by external standards. Her energy is free, for it's not hostage to approval. That opens space for a connection far beyond surface attraction, the meeting of souls. A space where the other is seen not as a mirror confirming an idealized image, but as a living, complex whole presence. When a man encounters that energy, something in his unconscious awakens. He senses something that cannot be categorized or comprehended rationally. This woman is not a projection of his fantasies, nor a reflection of the cultural ideal. She is real, and being real is the greatest act of courage and seduction one can offer. For the real invites surrender, not consumption. And surrender is the essence of deep bonds. This woman, living beyond her persona, does not hesitate to show her soul. She shares her vulnerabilities, doubts, and yearnings without making a spectacle. She is whole because she knows herself. She does not adapt to others' expectations, and that is why her energy is so powerful. It does not bend, it endures. That rare vibrational stability is profoundly attractive. Relationships born of this kind of encounter are not built on games, manipulation, or idealization. They arise from mutual recognition. The man sees not a body or a role, but a soul reflecting his own possibilities. It can be challenging, as it requires him to shed his masculine persona, the provider, the conqueror, the strong one. To meet on the level of souls, he too must remove his masks. That's why not everyone can stay by her side. Her energy accepts no lukewarm relationships or illusions. It demands presence, depth, and truth. That can be scary because it confronts, but it also heals. For where there is truth, there is possibility of transformation, and transformation is what the unconscious craves most, even when the ego resists. This woman need not speak of spirituality. She embodies it. Her energy reveals something sacred in the simple act of existing authentically. She transforms the atmosphere, not through theatrical gestures, but through presence. And the man who meets her, if he is ready, feels called to dive into his own depths, abandon his characters, and reveal himself. There, the encounter is born, not between personas, but between beings. An encounter of souls is not romantic in the Hollywood sense. It is real, imperfect, challenging, and incredibly beautiful. It is not free of pain, but filled with meaning. At that level, beauty ceases to be appearance and becomes presence. And when presence is true, it remains eternally seductive. Therefore, living beyond the persona is the path to attract not just any man, but the one ready to see, feel, and truly relate to you. The energy emanating from this choice speaks directly to another's soul, and it is this silent call that makes him fall in love not with an image, but with your essence. Throughout this video, we delve into the deep understanding that true magnetism does not spring from aesthetics, but from the soul. When a woman accesses her essence, integrates her shadow, lives her feminine energy authentically, and breaks free from the prison of the persona, she becomes irresistibly alive. That energy touches dimensions of another that even he does not comprehend, awakening a desire for connection, not with the surface, but with truth. Carl Jung teaches us that everything true resonates in the unconscious, and true love, or the passion that transcends the fleeting, is always a reunion between aspects crying out for integration. That is why energy holds more power than beauty. It speaks the language of the soul. If this content resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you never miss another deep reflection like this. Share this video with someone you believe needs to hear it, and comment below on what touched your heart most. And before you go, click on the video playing on your screen now. It will take you even deeper on this journey of self-knowledge and transformation.